Good morning, Seller Sessions. Isabella Hamilton with Frank Bell. And I have with me this morning the beautiful and brilliant Melissa Rodriguez. How are you, my love?
Woo woo! I'm doing so good. So excited to be on your podcast this morning. What a great way to start the week.
I love doing the podcast every Monday because it starts out my week incredible. I always bring new people, I always bring new ideas and new connections, and I absolutely love it. I remember meeting you. And I was like, this girl is going places. I need to have her on my podcast. And finally, we made it happen after a few months. But you're here now, so I'm so
Yes.
happy. How are you?
Yes.
How was your month? Can you believe we're almost into 2022? I keep wanting to say it's
Can't.
2021. I don't know where
Mm.
the year went. How are you?
Yesterday, yesterday I was telling someone we were doing our 2023 planning, so I'm living in the future.
You're way
Um,
ahead of most people. Are
I'm
you,
living there.
Melissa? Let's start with this. Let's start with the end. Okay. What are your big goals for next year?
It's interesting as I think about next year because I've been doing so much this year, as if next year is going to be like this crazy big year for us. Um, and so, as we look at next year, our goal is it's a little hard to understand, but basically we have two companies. We have social media relations, and we have Mel Rodriguez and Company. Mel Rodriguez and Company is a Hispanic marketing agency, where social media relations is a full stack agency. And what we've discovered this past year with having clients for both agencies is that there's a really big need in the market for Hispanic marketing. And so our goals next year include doubling down on the Hispanic marketing agency and really growing and cultivating that because of the success we've seen this year. And also something that's new and different for me is aligning even more our values with our team, getting efficient with the team that we have. We scaled and we grew really quickly, which means we had hired really fast. And so just taking time to evaluate, make sure everybody's in the right seats, make sure you have the right team members, and then scaling them and just pouring all this training, leadership material, everything you can into those colleagues, and really just like investing in them again. So this year has been a lot of cleanup. This year has been a lot of growth. It's been a lot of getting the right people, and our goal is that by next year they're in place and we have really aggressive revenue goals that we want to hit. And so just like making sure we have the foundation really solid. Just that's been this year. It's like reevaluating the foundation and making sure it can support the growth that we're looking for next year.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. I feel like a lot of people that I've been talking to, myself included, this year has really been a year of constant growth, which obviously when you grow it comes with struggles and it comes with different difficulties, but I feel like it's all preparing us to where
Yeah.
we're going next year. Because even in my case, I feel like I've just been like up and down, and it's like we're pushing it, and it's like you don't see the light, but it's all
Hmm.
coming together. And then I know by next year I feel like a lot more people are going to feel more secure into what they're doing. And I love seeing that about you. And I love that about you when I first met you, because I could feel that you're just so inspiring for once. I mean, you're working two businesses at the same time. So let's talk about your first one. What made you even go into like this Hispanic market? That's not something that you hear, which I actually think people should focus a little more on. So what made you
Yeah.
go into that?
I was so lucky. In the beginning when I started social media relations, I did it on a whim. Like I just did it because I was like, oh, I need a business to go to this go to this convention, and so I made up social media relations with a group of
But
friends.
were you always
And
like excited about social media and the direction that it's going towards? Like what made you go into that specifically? Because it's definitely a great a great business to be in and very much needed, especially these days.
yeah, it's not that I was excited about social media, is that I think as entrepreneurs, we're opportunists. And this is before I even looked at myself as an entrepreneur. I love business. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love business. Like, that is my favorite thing in the entire world. Building teams, building companies, building systems, processes, like building a business to me is the best thing in the world. How I did it was irrelevant in many respects. I mean, it was important that I found something I was passionate about, because I could have done it in accounting, which was my degree, but I chose not to, because at that point I understood I can make money doing whatever I want. And so I might as well do something fun. And so when I saw social media and I saw that it wasn't going anywhere, that was the pivotal point for me. When I understood social media isn't going anywhere, it's almost like this epiphany, like this light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, well, if this isn't going anywhere and nobody understands it and it's only going to get bigger and better, then why not build a company around this particular thing? And so it was really just an alignment of what isn't going anywhere and my love for business. So I saw an opportunity, and I kind of dove into it before I even quit my corporate job, like a lot of people do.
I think this
So
is actually, I think this, you made such a crucial point, and I just want to stop here for a second,
yeah.
because we have a lot of listeners that may be on the verge and they don't really know what business to go into. And a lot of people think they're just going to wait and somehow an idea will pop into their head, which when it happens, obviously it's amazing, and I love those kind of people because they're so innovative and creative. But at the same time, you're like, you know what, I really love business, I know I am a good business person, I'm an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
and what are the opportunities out there? And social media, obviously it's one of the biggest ones out there, and just like you mentioned, it's highly underrated and highly misunderstood for the powers that it has, and for you to be able to clean out that mess in your head, because we're always thinking of 100 business ideas all the time. And I think it's important to, I'm going to go against what everybody says, follow your passion and then you'll make money. Again, I think it's great and it's beautiful, but
Mhm.
there comes a time when it's like, okay, what are some of the problems out there that I can solve? And if
Yeah.
I can pick a few, and then from then on just realize what is it that excites you, just like you said, and from what excites you, you will eventually become passionate about it. Do you feel like that's what happened to you when you came to social media?
Yeah, it almost sounds like an arranged marriage, huh?
I wouldn't know anything about that, but yes,
It
I
does.
guess it does. You eventually fall in love because people are always like, how did you get into business? How did you do that? Did you have a passion for it? I have a passion just like you for business, and it's so funny you mentioned
Mhm.
accounting because that's what my degree is on, and I'm like,
Oh,
I,
what?
I do not. I have a CPA, a tax attorney, and two
That's
bookkeepers,
funny.
and I have an accounting degree. So we're not even going to go into that.
Yeah,
But
it's
so
so
you
true.
decided to do social media, and then you went even further into niching it out even more into the Hispanic market. Do you work with anybody else, or tell me a little bit about your work process?
Okay, so let me back up and answer what you were just saying
Sure.
too, because that was a good question. Um, so there's like a cylinder, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's an Asian concept. There's a whole book around it. Somebody knows it, just shout out the name, or I'll come up with it later. But basically, there's like a cylinder, and it's all around like what you're good at, what the world needs, and in the middle of that is like that's like the thing you should be doing. And so you're right that like passion is important, because you're gonna like, you need a certain degree of passion, whether it's for the business or whether it's for the magic of creating the business. Wherever you can find that passion, like it has to be in there somewhere, and you kind of have to be a little good at it, or you have to have a lot of persistence to become good at it. But it doesn't mean that like it should be your be all end all. I mean, I told you I still worked at corporate for years before I quit. So like you have to, there's a certain level of logic and like, preparation that goes into this before we become a little crazy. But there's lots of stories of people making it and going all in. And so there's no right or wrong way. I think a lot of times it's just your intuition and what you're ready for. So listen to that, pay attention to those things. And so, but here's something else I wanted to mention, which is another concept is, Brené Brown, which we all know, a really great speaker and author, she talks a lot about not like taking advice from people who are not in the ring with you. And what I wanted to say about that concept is you're not going to find the perfect thing if you're not playing in the arena. A lot of times we're like waiting for that idea to hit us, like you said, but Mel Rodriguez and company would not have came up to me in my life if I wouldn't have started social media relations. Social media relations wouldn't have came up in my life if I didn't start a blog before that. So because I was playing in the arena, new ideas were showing up for me because I was ready and willing to accept them. But if you're not diving in, if you're not doing something to move the needle, if you're not reading a book, if you're not taking the first step, nothing is going to happen to you because you're not in the arena. The arena doesn't even see you. They don't even know you exist. So how are they going to know, so play in the arena is the first big thing. I was in the arena. I already had a blog. I already started social media relations, and I was so committed to this business. But before I quit my corporate job, once I had all that disposable income, because we all know that's really nice, before I quit, I invested maybe a third, I would say a third or a quarter of what I was making every month into a business coach. He was really, really expensive because I was making good money. But I didn't care. It didn't bother me because I knew this was a pivotal tool for me to go to the next step. And he had already built a creative agency from the ground up, sold it, did really well. So he knew what he was doing, he kind of knew what he was doing. And I got very lucky because I came highly recommended from a friend, Ginny, who you know. And so she was working with him. So I was able to piggyback off of him. And he was able to help me. And he shined a light on the fact that hey, this agency you're doing is really great, but what makes it special, makes it different? Why would anybody choose you over an agency who's been around for 25 years? And he was the one who really opened my eyes into tapping into the genius of who I am, Melissa Rodriguez. What does that mean? How does that make me different? How does that make me special? And thanks to him, I built Mel Rodriguez and Company, because otherwise I wouldn't have had the ego or the courage to build an entire brand around my name. That's very egocentric, and I thought to myself once upon a time. But that was just a limiting belief that I had to overcome. And then he taught me this is a business, this isn't about you. And I was like, oh, great, as long as it's not about me, because I'm not that egocentric. I don't like things about me. I want things to be bigger than me. I want them to be about other people. I want to be in service. So Mel Rodriguez and Company became that business that wasn't about me. It was about all the name for all the Latinos in the world that are not they're not highlighted. They're not giving attention, even though we're about to become a majority population in 2050. So there's a lot of data that backs up this decision as well. And that's where I was born. And that business has been a lifeline for me for years now. Since I started it, it has been the business that attracts the biggest brands. It's the business that attracts the biggest budgets sometimes. It is absolutely the business that has the best, unique value proposition. It's a clear, and it just performs really, really, really well. So if I didn't have Mel Rodriguez and Company, I don't know if my other company would have survived. I mean, it would have survived, but there was days that it needed this company. There was months when the cash flow needed Mel Rodriguez and Company. And then there's months Mel Rodriguez needed social media relations. So it's been the perfect symbiotic relationship that I've had since we've started it.
That's incredible. That's another great point that I feel like a lot of people are missing out on, the fact that you need somebody to guide you. And like you said, you were
Oh yeah.
spending a quarter of your
Yeah.
income on it, so it must not have been cheap. But you see a lot of people when they start making a little money, they have this feeling of I have to hold on all of this, and I'm
No.
not going to put in money into my business. Are you still working with that coach now?
No, I wish we were. He was so good and he was so prepared. He moved so quickly that I could only like work with him to us. Like he was only meant to introduce me to this brand, which I see now. He was only meant to open my eyes to it and to, force me to get it all started. But then he left me with so much work to do that I was like, okay, I need time. I need space. Like, I basically created this business in like 3 or 4 months. And so now I just needed to like give it some loving and nurturing and evolution. But what I want to say, because you said something that is important, um, people feel like when they're making money, they need to hold on to it. So there's a concept of you should have a safety net because you move around differently when you have a safety net. My recommendation is always to put your safety net in stocks, so at least your safety net is growing. But this is important. You should never hold on to money out of a scarcity mentality. It is so, so important to know that like you have to be in an abundant mindset. Like this is horrible advice. This is what people say. Spend every single penny you make. Why? Because like then you have to go off and make more. Why do you think people with families and kids, they make more money? Because they have more mouths to feed. And so the more need you have, the more money you're going to make. If you have that understanding and mindset. If you think, oh my gosh, I have to save every penny because I'm going to lose it all because my parents were poor and we're never going to make money again, now you've entered this horrible cycle of scarcity. And you're probably going to make all of those things come true because that's how you're thinking. So I read an article that said, a lot of big business leaders say, spend almost everything you're making, spend it all on operations, spend it all on sales, because you need to make more. It forces you to figure out ways to make more. I just wanted to say that.
That's incredible. And I feel like your mindset, has a lot to do with running a successful business, and in your case too. And I know you do, I want to say, is a nonprofit, the new corporation that you started. Tell us about
Yeah.
that and how that
Yes.
involves your mindset around just business and helping others.
Are you talking about Empower Her?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I started Empower Her Sisterhood when when I made a little bit of profit with social media relations. Um, I had made like a promise to, God, the universe. And I said, listen, like help me out here. Let me make some money. I was really curious about what would it look like to be able to play? Like we talked about playing when we were jumping on this call. What would it look like to be able to play? What would it look like to have money to play with? What would I create if I had money? What would I do in my free time if I had money to spend? And this past year, 2 years, I've been playing and it's been so much fun to play. And one of my things to play was Empower Her Sisterhood because it was all self-funded, 100%, like just a passion project that it basically should be a nonprofit because it doesn't make any money. But it was my way of giving back to the world and giving women resources I wish I had when I started my business, giving women the most like genuine level of support that I wish I had when I started my business. I encountered I think what's expected is like very catty, very protective, very scarcity mentality women and men in business who like, I'll only share with you if this, and like very conditional. And I was like, no, I don't think that's how the world should be. I really don't. I really think that there's people who want to just give. And so that was Empower Her Sisterhood. It was a monthly, and it still exists. It's, now it's actually kind of making money, which is exciting. But the concept, monthly networking event in person in Los Angeles. Women come, and it was free. It's always been free in that piece. Women come together and we host a workshop. We have food that's vegan. Like everything is the highest possible frequency that we can hold. And it's really beautiful, the women that we attract to these events. And we just started to do dinner series, which is now paid, and we just incorporated a platform, which is now paid. But at the end of the day, like there is no nominal value for the value you get out of this networking in this organization. Like this is worth millions of dollars if tapped into correctly and understood. But we give it because we really like. I don't want to hold on to these like things that I know. I want to give them. And so the moment I learn something, I share. That's my motto. I learned, oh, I gotta write an article. Oh, I learned, oh, I gotta go on a podcast. Oh, I learned, I gotta share it with my Empower Her Sisterhood and do a workshop. I don't want anything to be left inside of me. I want everything to be given back to the world. So that's Empower Her.
That is very special because it just shows me how evolved your mindset is, because again, I don't really know your upbringings. I know mine, so I can speak from that. It's when you grow up in very like poor environment, and you don't have all these resources that could guide you and show you like business or mindset. And I feel like you took all of that, everything that you've learned, and now you created this community, which by the way, for those listening, we met at a networking dinner and
Yeah.
we kept in touch. And I think you're right when you say that the value of these networking situations are beyond anything that you can put money on, because I met you, I met Hazel, I
Mm-hmm.
met Kenny, we met so many amazing people. And sometimes you connect with people and sometimes you don't, but sometimes you may just have a conversation where a light bulb goes off and you're like, oh my God, this is the answer that I've been waiting for. So for you to be
Yeah.
able to create that platform and give a voice to this women, and do you also have men that join these events?
We call
Or
them our women champions.
oh,
So
very
yeah, we have men that show up to the events all the time. I love them because they're like, I just love women empowerment. I'm like, yes, we do too. So we're definitely not exclusive to it. We think men are awesome, and if having men in our corner is important, like this is so extreme. Well, like the MLK march, just because it was the MLK march doesn't mean they didn't have white people in the MLK march supporting
exactly.
the Black freedom. So I really believe like this isn't exclusive. This is inclusive. It's the theme. It's the premise of the heart of the organization that matters. Like show up, come, be all end all, and just come for the to support, which is important.
I absolutely love that.
Yes.
What made you go from? I mean, I kind of know the answer because it's so exciting being an entrepreneur. But you were in the corporate for a long time, and you were
Mm-hmm.
consulting for Ernst and Young, which is such a reputable firm. And what made you like leave such a stable job and go into this like scary waters?
You know, not only is it because of this exhilarating feeling of being an entrepreneur, there's other things to this. I was actually pretty logical about it. And let me tell you this too, because this is important. I didn't understand this was important until recently. I absolutely loved my corporate job. I just want to say that. I am not one of those people who left corporate and was like, forget corporate, go be not. No, I loved my corporate job. But this is also just part of my personality where like whatever I do, I go all in and I fall in love with it. Like I'm just like I love everything. I love life. And so I loved my corporate job. To me, it was like the coolest experience in the entire world. I worked in public accounting. I didn't have a boring job, even though it sounds like it. Because I traveled the world. I worked with different organizations. I learned so much. Like every minute that I was learning, I was like just so happy. Like it was like a sponge. And so I loved it. And I always told myself like I'm gonna stay as long as I'm having fun and I'm learning. That's my motto. As long as I'm having fun and I'm learning, that's what I'm gonna be. So I did really, really, really well in my corporate job. Like very like I was given amazing opportunities and I made it to manager, which was a really good position to be. Um, but things that got me out of it were really important things for me. Number one, when I sat in a boardroom with my big boss, the VP of the department, I paid attention to what she was talking about. And I even sat in on annual planning meetings with her, which was really important. And I paid attention to what they were talking about. And I asked myself this question almost unconsciously, very fast. Is this what I want to be talking about in 10 years? Like it was just so
Clear.
second nature to me, it was so clear to me. I was just like, hell no, this is not what I want to be because I'm already talking about it now. Why do I feel like I'm going to be any better or any more excited to talk about it in 10 years? I want to be talking about different things in 10 years. So that was number one. That was a very like mindful moment for me. Number two was work. When I moved from Boston to California, I worked for Disney, which was amazing. And I worked there for a year and a half. And it was definitely like I I felt like I was just like it was not as the thrill, I guess, wasn't as exciting as everything that happened in my blog, which is what it was first. It was a blog, and every time like my website was finished, I was like, "Oh my god, this is so exciting!" It was like a high. It was just amazing. If I made $2 off of Google AdSense, I mean, I was so excited, even though I was making so much money in my
Right.
corporate job, you know. But like $2 meant more to me, and so it
Yeah.
just was like that connection to my business. And oh, this is the other one that's really important, because I grew up, middle class, but low middle class, so kind of poor. I had a mentality that I had to prove myself and I had to make money. um and so once I like achieved like the best ratings, the best whatever I could, I mean, I already had achieved the best of everything in my role. So once I achieved that, I had enough confidence in myself that I could do anything and that I could make money in any which way it mattered. And so once I understood that about myself, that's when I could leave my corporate job. It's the confidence in knowing I can make money in anything I choose. Without that, I wouldn't have been able to leave. And so I needed my corporate job. I needed that to build up my confidence. And that was okay. That's what I needed. If you already have that confidence, you don't need it. Go do your own thing. You don't need it. But if you need to build that up, then build it up. Like there's no right or wrong, but I wouldn't have been able to start my business and move as quickly as I did without my corporate years, like without a doubt.
How can people build their confidence without having to go through, a job that, I mean, luckily in your case you really loved it, and that's
Yeah,
great. I'm the same. I've
yeah,
always been very passionate about anything I've ever done just because
yes.
of the learning opportunities. But there's some people that, might now want to go through that process. They're like, you know what, I don't want to work for corporate and a miserable job and something that I don't want to do. So are there other ways that somebody can build up that confidence?
Absolutely. I was so new to like all this mindset work and all of this personal development work, and I didn't really dive into it till I quit my corporate job and I had nobody but myself to rely on. So if you already are on this journey of personal, self development, and you're reading the right books, and you're watching videos like this, and you're watching YouTube videos, you're on the right track. And just know this: you can hack the system because it's all up here. So you can totally hack it once you understand your brain and how it works in your mind. You can meditate into these things. You can rinse and repeat different things to do, to feel really confident in your trade. You can start to like ask yourself, what would make me feel really good about my trade? Okay, if I did ABC, okay, good, go do ABC. And then know that put an amount that you want to make in your business, a month or however your revenue looks. Put that amount down and know that you can make that amount. Once you undeniably believe that you can make that amount, and do whatever it takes to like be confident in it, then you will be able to bring that in, and at least you will move differently, you will act differently, because you're like, I can make X amount every month in sales for Amazon. I know I can do it, even if it feels crazy. And it just will start to like come and kind of call it in. Like, my favorite quote is by Paulo Coelho, and he says, whenever you just make a decision, the whole universe conspires in helping you achieve it. And so make that decision. How much do you want to make? And watch how the whole universe conspires to help you achieve that exact goal.
You know what, it's so great that you're mentioning this, because this is why I do this Monday mindset sessions with people, because this is exactly what I'm looking for. And I feel like it's a concept that's a little bit more accepted these days than it was, let's say, a few years ago. And I like to talk about this a lot with my friends, with business acquaintances, with anybody, because I believe that this is one of the most important factors into creating anything successful. And most people
Mm-hmm.
would say, well, you have to learn the skill, you have to do this. And yes, all of those take a part. But, knowing that you can achieve really anything you put your mind to. Actually, I was listening to Andy Frisella yesterday. And if you know who that is,
Yeah.
he's like this, very big personality, and he always just sounds super angry. And he's just mad at the world, right? Because he's like trying to fight the systems and whatever. But he was actually talking about what you just said right now, like the power of
Mm-hmm.
manifestation, the power of focus, of visualization, and how it has helped him into his career. And he really says that he has built everything on that belief. And he probably says, he's like, I'm not smarter than most of you guys. I'm not more dedicated. I'm not more this. And yet, because I made it, just like you said, like I created that vision in my head that this is where I'm going, and I will achieve it no matter what. And then it happens for him. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people just don't take this seriously because it sounds so woo, and it sounds so um I don't know, maybe too easy for some people. But I believe,
Yeah.
and from what you just shared, you also believe that that is really the secret to really doing anything in your life.
Yeah, it's important though for people to know this part too, because I think what happens is like anything in life, any concept in life gets like taken out of context, and then people don't fully understand it, the manifestation world. And so, one, I think you should study to understand what that means, because there's a lot of pieces to it. The most important piece is that yes, you have to believe in desire, and have that clear goal in mind. But the second piece of it is you have to be acting and taking aligned action as if it already happened. Like, so many people that are my friends or that I work with are like, well, Melissa, like, I'm not having this success, I don't get it, like, I'm doing what you told me to do, and I'm doing exactly what you said. And I asked them, I'm like, okay, really, are you though? Like, what did you do this past week? What are the 5 things that I've told you to do did you do? Well, I didn't do them this week, I did them last week. Oh, interesting. Okay, so you think that because you did them last week that you're just going to start working again. And so what happens is a lot of times we think, oh, because I want it, it's going to happen. No, because you want it, you're going to have ideas of aligned actions to take to make that happen. But if you do not take the action, if you do not take aligned action, um, I mean, it will, like, it may still come, but like it's going to be a little like harder, and it may take a little longer because your actions are not in alignment with what you're asking for. If you want to lose weight and then you're eating cookies all day that are not going to help the weight loss, you're not taking aligned action. And so the goal of manifestation is not only to like know what you want, to feel into what you want, but to take aligned action. I'm like, what is in my energy that is contradicting what I want? If I'm doing this but I say I want this, what am I telling my body? What am I telling the universe? Well, I'm telling the universe I have conflicting messages. So we have to remove the conflicting messages and bring awareness to what's conflicting first, and then do our absolute best to get as much aligned to what we want. It's not easy. It's going to take work, and you're going to have fallbacks, but those fallbacks spring you forward. So just knowing like all you can do is every one decision you make is just slowly, one decision at a time. Is this in alignment with what I want? Yes. Is this in alignment with what I want? No. Okay, I'm gonna stop doing that. So it's kind of a constant readjustment.
I think that's a very, very good point to bring up, because you're right. There are some steps, just like you would create any business. Working on your mindset is the same. It's constant work. So I feel like those people who, let's say, believe but no results are happening, it tells me that they don't actually fully believe it. Because what happens
Mm-hmm.
is, let's say if you just like you said, you put an amount, right, a number that you want to achieve this month, and you just wait for it. But
Yeah.
if you're not feeling it as it already happened, then you're not actually going to act on some of these steps because you don't actually believe that it's going to happen, which
Mm-hmm.
stops you. So even though a lot of people say, well, I believe and I also took the action, there's definitely some type of disconnect there. Because if you actually believe that it was going to happen, just like you mentioned the gym part, then you wouldn't maybe eat that extra cookie. You wouldn't do some of these things because you actually already believe that you are in the shape that you already want. So
Yeah.
if you have that in your mind, that I already look a certain way, even though you don't just yet, you would do the steps that a fit person would do, which,
Yep.
they might not eat that extra cookie, or they
Yep.
may put in 10 more minutes at the gym, because
Yep.
now they're embodying that person
Mhm.
that they're trying to create. And it goes the same in business. When you have this mindset that, I'm going to create this amount of income or this other business, and you truly believe in it, then you will take the actions because you already know it's happening as you speak. So
Mhm.
I think that's another piece that most people are kind of, they take like the book The Secret, they take it kind of like, oh, that's just woo, it doesn't really work. I pictured myself in that car and nothing happened. Well, it's just like you said, you're
Um,
missing some ingredients to that recipe.
Let me tell y'all, I'm driving the car that's on my vision board. So it is 100% the exact same car. Well, maybe I don't know if it's the exact same car, but it's pretty damn close. So you
I have seen it. It's
absolutely
very
can.
nice.
Yes. It's, and it's on my vision board, Isabella. I can't wait for one day to me to show you my 2 vision boards I have. I carry them over every year. So it's on my vision board. It's in white. I got it in black, but I think it's gonna be
I
just
love
fine.
it.
So it's
Are you,
possible.
is that something that you do every year, like before the end of the
Hmm.
year? This like
Yeah.
vision board. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I vision board all year long. You know what I think is super, you know what I think is a secret manifestation tool? Oh my gosh, this just hit me right now. This is exciting. Pinterest. Pinterest is a secret manifestation tool because I use Pinterest all year long. Whenever I feel like, oh, like where do I want my fashion to go next? Where do I what like how do I want my house to look next? Like I'll just build a Pinterest board and I start like downloading all of the images of what I feel is exciting. So not only do I build a vision board every year at the end of the year, and it gets cleaner and tighter and better every year, but then I also throughout the year, like kind of like build my own vision board through Pinterest. And like I'm constantly thinking like, how do I want to dress? How do I want to look? What do I want my hair to look like? What do I want my nails to look like? So you can be vision boarding every single day, all year long. And it can be really, really fun. It can be very like engaging. And then what's cool about it is once you start to achieve those things, what happens is you recognize them. Because before I used to achieve, I've always manifested. I'm like a master manifester. And so I've always manifested. The only difference was I didn't know I was manifesting. I just happened to like attract everything I wanted. But now that I know about it, I cherish it more. So when I got my car, I cherished it more than if I would have just gotten it. So when you ask for something and you receive it, there's something about that like exchange that you get more excited about because you're like, oh, I remember asking for it.
And it
So
strengthens your
always,
belief. It strengthens
yeah,
your belief that this is, because the first time that it
definitely.
happens, and I remember clearly, I was very young, and I was like, oh, it's a coincidence. This is a
Yeah,
coincidence. And that's what,
yeah.
and what people don't understand is that they're manifesting things all the time, whether they know it or not. If you're waking up and you're having a bad day, more than likely you will continue that day having bad events happen to you because of the energy that you put out. And this is such a crucial part that most people tend to not take serious, because we are
Mhm.
manifesting things all the time, whether they're good or bad, or whether you pick them or not. And there's nothing
Mhm.
really, it's not that hard. Like if you're able to set your mind onto, okay, I'm going to accomplish 2 things today, and then just keep doing that over and over, then you will see the end results. And I love talking about this subject. And again, it's unfortunate that
Mhm.
most people just kind of write it off as, something that's not real. But it has been real for me. It has been real for you. And
Yeah,
we're both
it's okay.
extremely successful in what we do. And I feel like, most people would call that lucky. But when you start attracting this vision into your life, then you will realize that you're actually creating your own reality.
Yes, girl. Yes, you are. You're creating your reality. Life is magic. We're playing in a big video game. Like the coolest thing about life is you can tell yourself whatever you want. Like whatever story you tell yourself, like again, another level of awareness, understanding that you're telling yourself a story all day, every day about people, about yourself, about situations. You can choose those stories. You can choose whatever stories feel the best, like the highest feeling story, and then you can just make that happen. To me, life is a game. It's a giant video game, and like these little cars moving everywhere, and I just constantly tell myself new stories. And it feels good to me. It makes me happy. And, it's just knowing like not to take things so seriously is important. Some people try to like manifest, and they're so like intense about it. Like, I'm gonna manifest this new house. And I'm like, well, you gotta release the stress from it, because then now you're just making it like this intense thing that is constrained when it's meant to be a flow and a process of like, you cannot be attached either, because like what sometimes you won't get something because it's just not in alignment with your path and your highest good. And so you have to know, like, I can ask for something, but if it's not in alignment with my highest good, then I'm not going to get it. And I have to understand and know that the universe is doing that to hold me, to protect me from something that I think I want but I don't really need. And so that's part of like also just like flowing and knowing what you want, but being okay if you don't get it, and being okay if something else comes along, and it's okay. Like, it's all okay.
That and most of the times it's probably something even more exciting and better than
Yeah.
you were even thinking in the first place, because
Yeah.
that's another thing that a lot of
Mhm.
people do is like they're very fixated on one goal, but not only that goal but the way they're getting to it. And I think
Yeah.
that's very important, to be flexible in that road of achieving that, because you may think, oh, I'm going this way and I'm going to work with this team, but really what ends up happening is like this team might not work out, and then you find the right person, you're like, oh my god, thank god it didn't go the way I wanted to go, because this is so
That's true.
much better. So having a goal or a plan, it's wonderful, but having that flexibility and being you know just aware of like, oh my god, something exciting might be happening. Like, if
Mhm.
in my business there's always ups and downs, and Amazon always changing different rules. And
Mhm.
just recently they actually changed a very big part of what I was doing. And I could have sat down and cried and say, my life is over and this is done, or say, okay, what are the opportunities here? What is it that I can do to actually create a bigger impact for my clients? How can I take this, what just happened, and create a better road for them and for myself in this? So it's about always like making sure that you are open to changing what you're doing at all times.
Mhm.
And as an entrepreneur, we go through this all the time. We're always having to pivot. We're always having to change different aspects in our business. And I know being an Amazon seller, it's quite tough. It can be very successful business and very productive, but it's tough, I'm not going to lie to you. And I see clients being sad all the time for certain things not going their way, but I see the ones that are super successful, that they take all of these opportunities, and I really call them opportunities. Most people will call them failures, but I
Mhm.
see them taking those and creating something actually better that ends up working out even
Yeah.
better for them in the long run.
Yeah.
So I love seeing that we're sharing the same mindset. And this is why I love bringing people on this podcast,
Yeah.
because this is a common trend that I see, and I like talking about it all the time, because I
Yeah.
want people to really understand the value and the importance of creating your own reality. Like, you
Yeah.
can learn any skill you want, literally any skill. I mean, yeah, you can be a heart surgeon, that will require more than just the skill. But for most part, for most entrepreneurs, there are things that we can learn in a few weeks, in a
Mhm.
month, in two, in
Mhm.
three, and then become very good at it. But do you actually believe that you're going to succeed with it? And you are a prime example for taking something that you're like, oh, I think this might work, and actually creating an empire.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy because you saw so many people going into the social media business like a few years ago, like different programs that all these influencers were doing. And I remember like asking myself, like, how does that make me feel? Like, is it intimidating? Like, does it make me feel like there's competition? And I remember thinking to myself, like, like nothing, like, no, of course, like there was no negative feeling around it. There was no doubt around it. If anything, it was validation that what I was doing was needed in the world. But then also, like, there was just this sense of like confidence and understanding that like the biggest difference between me and other people, if they enter whatever I do, is that like I just won't quit, and like I know others will. And so I think I think people are really quick to quit. It's
Yeah,
almost like our definition, I did a whole thing. Our definition of hard is really like misconstrued. People think hard is one thing when hard really is another. And so they're like, oh, too hard. Never mind. I quit. At least I tried and I went really hard. And we're like, no, when you quit, that was the real definition of
yeah,
hard. Hard wasn't when you were like, staying up late at night and, maybe like sleeping for 2 hours. Like, that's whatever. Hard is when that didn't work. Hard is when you have to do it all over again. And then there's this level of persistence, I think, that every entrepreneur, like successful, has. And it's kind of like, it's annoying. It's like, we just will not quit. Like, it's like the universe like will try to knock you down, and like it'll say, let me like change that algorithm for you, Isabella, so that we'll see. Let me remove all of these sales from you. We'll see. And then you're just kind of like, okay, like you a little disoriented for a minute, but you're like, what's next? And then you get back up and you're in the punching ring again. And then you're just like, damn, this girl will not fall. So eventually you will stand and you will win. Eventually it happens. They just say like you just are able to fail more times than most people were willing to.
absolutely. And that's so incredible to hear that. And just like when with any other thing, like when you quit, you are also strengthening your belief that you're a quitter, that you're not good
Yep.
enough. So whatever you choose to do, it will stay with you. So let's say you're quitting selling on Amazon because you're like, this is not for me. Then what happens, which is very unfortunate, the next business that you start, you're going in with a little less belief in yourself and a little
Mm-hmm.
less belief in yourself. And so now you're on this like wheel of uncertainty, and you have no idea how to get out of it. And all it takes is just not giving up. And really, like if you decide not to be an Amazon seller anymore, that's fine. Not everybody should be an Amazon seller, but you
Yeah.
know did you give it all you could? Are you giving up for the reason that you think you are not good enough? Because especially in our space, Melissa,
Yeah.
you will see a lot of people who speak up very big numbers. And a lot of people get intimidated. They're like, well, I can never do 1 million a day like so and so did.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens, when you start comparing yourself to these people, it's like your confidence decreases to the point that most people will actually give into that belief that they're never going to succeed to get to that level. And I know for us as women, and I'm sorry if I speak for yourself as well, but we are in entrepreneurship. It's pretty male dominated world. And at least for me, when I started my business, it was always like, oh my god, like am I good enough to like sit at this table? It's always questioning yourself. And it's the same with Amazon sellers, like, oh, I can never be like that guy, so I'm just gonna quit.
It's so interesting you say that, because it's such a different mindset. Like it's hard because I gotta. It's hard for me to even like comprehend it a little bit. So it's such a different mindset because it's a competition mindset. It's a separation mindset, and it basically says to me that, okay, if you're thinking that way, there's a couple of limiting beliefs that you have to overcome. One, we're not all different, like we're all one. It's really important. So whatever he can do, you can absolutely do. But then also like a celebration mindset. Like I am such a big fan of celebrating everyone's wins and successes as if they were my own. And I do so for multiple reasons. Like my friends are like, well, you didn't make all that money. Why are you so happy? And I was like, no, 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 you made that money. But because you made it, I know it's possible. And so I'm going to celebrate it because I know I can do the same thing. And so the moment, like if somebody tells me I can make $1 million a day in Amazon, and I don't sell, guys, so I'm not your competition. But if someone told me that, I would be like, oh, so amazing. Like you made $1 million. That means it's possible. I can make $1 million in one day. And I start to celebrate and feel into that feeling. And so knowing that like whatever other people do is only shining a light on what's possible. What's even more hard, I think, hard to do is to accomplish something that's never been done before, to believe in something that's never been done before. Like that to me is a little bit even more elevated. Like if somebody made $10 million in one day, how can you make $20 million in one day? And how can you believe in that and know that it's possible? And so just changing the story that you're telling yourself and thinking of like people, like this $1 million a day person is not your competition. They're not even thinking about you right now. So focus on yourself, focus on knowing that that's possible. And then just set that as your goal. If that's important to you, set it as your goal and make it happen. Do whatever it takes.
That's such a beautiful mindset, and you're right. Like a lot, and for the person that makes 1 million a day, you say, they're not even thinking of you, and that's true because they're so focused on creating for themselves. So what happens for those looking from the outside? They're like, well, they're strengthening their belief that they're not good enough. Well, he made that, so might as well just quit. But instead of looking at that, and like you said, which I do as well, like if I
Yeah.
see you like being super successful, I'm
Winning.
like, yes, that means
Mm-hmm.
I can do it. So
Yeah.
one is changing that perspective. And that little switch, Melissa, that little
Mm-hmm.
switch
Yeah.
sometimes is all it takes.
Yeah.
Literally, all it takes. Okay, he did 1 million a day. I am so excited. I am so grateful that this possibility even exists in the realm
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
Amazon, because it shows me that I can do it. Or you can take that as, you know what? This is not for me. I can never achieve that. I'm a failure. And then you go down that rabbit hole and end up in, misery and depression. And then it's very hard to climb out of that because you're already telling yourself that you're not good enough. But if you just switch your mindset, and guys, I know it's not as easy as we sound. Me and Melissa, like, we've been practicing this for years. I
Yeah.
assume you have too. So for us, it's easier to see the pattern and say, you know what, here is that belief. Not that we don't have them
Mm-hmm.
anymore, not that we don't
Mm-hmm.
feel insecure sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
not that we don't feel
Of
confident
course.
sometimes. We're
Of
humans and
course.
we all go through those emotions.
Yeah.
However, we're like, wait, is this actually real, or is just my mind or my ego playing into it, like, oh my god, I'm not
Yeah.
good enough. Maybe you just need a good cry. Literally,
Yeah.
maybe you just need a good cry and then
Yeah.
start over. Like,
Yeah.
we are humans and we are here to experience different emotions and different feelings into this life and go through all these steps to be able to enjoy those peak moments. And
Yeah.
actually, even those low moments, they still should be celebrated, because every time I'm in a low moment of my life, I know it's a growth period and I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody likes to be uncomfortable. It's
Mm-hmm.
annoying. It's just like being outside in the cold and you're freezing and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I wish I was by a fireplace. But yet,
Mm-hmm.
going from that cold environment to the fireplace, you just have a different feeling of like, thank you, God, for
Yeah.
whoever invented fire. So
Yeah. You
it's
appreciate it.
all about perspective. And again, it's not easy, but it takes practice. Like,
Yeah.
practice every time you catch yourself thinking a certain way. Switch it up a little bit because you have absolutely nothing to lose. You're already on your trajectory to
Mm-hmm.
either powerful success manifestation or depression and sadness. And the
Mm-hmm.
the amazing part about all of this is, like, you always have a choice. You always get
Mm-hmm.
to choose.
Yes, that's so true. You always get to choose your story. You get to choose your life. You get to create your life. Yeah, you get to tell yourself what's possible, what's not possible. Yeah. One of the most profound things that somebody ever told me when I said, what things do you see standing in my way to achieve what I want to achieve? And he said, you. You're the only thing standing in your way now. Like, you have everything you need. It's just now you. And so operate as if you're the only thing standing in your way. How would you move and what would you do if it's just you against you?
That gave me chills.
Mm,
Melissa, what are some of the events that you're going to this year? Because I know you're a big fan, just like I am,
mhm.
of always enriching your mind and
Yeah.
growing even more, self-developing even more. So what are some things that you're looking forward to this
Mhm.
coming year when it comes to, really anything, mindset, business related, really anything that you can think of?
So I know we're trying to go to that Joe Dispenza retreat in
I
January.
am definitely going. I am
Oh, you got your
definitely
ticket? You
I
were
got
able to
my
secure
ticket.
it? Okay,
I
good.
woke
All
up.
right.
I woke up on time.
Oh,
I was
wow.
there ready, and yeah, I'm very excited about that because I
So
haven't done that.
I'm on the wait list. I have a friend who said he might not go, so that's one of the ones that I'm gonna try to go. I just, honestly, I didn't believe that it would actually just sell out that quickly. I guess
Yeah.
I'm really new to this world for Joe. So yes, one of his retreats will be on my list for 2022. I tend to try to go to a couple industry specific events. I'd love to go to South by Southwest. It's one that I haven't been to that I'm dying to go to. And so I'll start to do like planning soon around like a budget and like what events I want to go to in 2022. But I haven't decided all of them yet. I tend to like do them like pretty like on a whim as well. I'd like to have a little like spontaneity in my life. So I like to like, if something pops up and I'm like, that sounds great, I'll be there. I'll do that too. So we'll see where I'll be, but definitely open to any suggestions if anyone has that they want to
Amazing. I love it.
share.
Do you have like some intentions for this next year? Like I'll tell you mine because I know the
Yeah.
more we talk about them, the more one it instills it for me. And maybe you have set yours. So I know most people do like, oh, end year resolutions, and those don't always tend to work out, but I decided to change a little bit the way I'm doing that. So now I'm creating intentions and where I want my vibe and my energy to be.
I like
One is work less,
that.
to
Love it.
make more, and three,
Yeah.
have more fun. So that's like
Uh-huh.
my, they're not specific like goals to achieve, but more where I want my vibe to be this year, this coming
Mhm.
year, because this year has been all about grind and work and
Yeah.
hustle, and it's exactly what I felt the whole year. So I know even these intentions are super powerful. So
Yeah.
next year, make more, work
Yeah.
less, and have
Yeah.
more fun. So with
Oh,
that being
I
said,
love
what
it.
are yours?
We're very aligned. We're very aligned. So definitely aligned with your intentions. Continuing to build a company that doesn't need me, so that I can work more on the business, the relationship side of the business is my goal, my intention. Like where I'm just focused on building relationships with amazing clients that we want to work with. And my business just operates 100% well, and probably better than without me, is one of my goals. And then to have more freedom is really important to me. Freedom to travel, freedom to work wherever I want to work from. I have this little house in Italy that I have my eyes on. I just look at it like every week, and I'm like, I'm gonna live there. I'm gonna be there one day soon. So just being able to work from Europe is really important to me. And yeah, I love the idea of having fun. I think I have a lot of fun. I'm scared of what would happen if I said to have more fun, because I think I have fun like a lot. So continue to having fun is going to be really
Good.
important too. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I love it that we're definitely aligned.
Yeah.
Melissa, where can people find you if they want to check out your work? I know you're working on so many different projects with your social media relations and Empower Her and Melissa, Mel, and okay, correct me, Mel
Mel,
Rodriguez and
Mel,
Co.
Mel Rodriguez and Company. Yep. So I would just start with my Instagram. It's probably the best way. Or my LinkedIn is Melissa Rodriguez. So you can find me on LinkedIn. On my Instagram is Melissa RINC, R Inc. So pretty easy to find me on Instagram or on LinkedIn if you want to chat more. Just shoot me a DM or a message and we'll have a conversation.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And I know those who were listening are very, very happy to learn a little bit more about your life and about mindset because I think it's
Yeah.
crucial. Thank you again
Yeah.
so much for dedicating this time to us. And
Thank
hopefully,
you, Isabella, for having me.
my
Yes. Hopefully
pleasure.
we'll have it soon.